Hello again, Ian Stokey with Mastermind Games, back for another Malifaux video. This time, the Corpse Candles. Moldy Skin 09149. So, according to their little vignette in the Ripples of Fate book from 2nd edition, where they first appeared, and again, I still don't have any of the 3rd edition Malifaux yet. Getting that's going to be contingent on when the 2nd printing becomes available, as well as finances whenever it does so. But I will get it eventually. Corpse candles are spirits that, or rather the remnants of the first zombies to follow Reva. And when they are destroyed, they simply inhabit a new corpse, following her not out of bindings, but out of loyalty because of the respect she gives them. And act as range extenders for her powers, allowing her, at least in 2nd edition, to manifest certain abilities through them. So I'm getting a nice solid base coat on their withered and rotting flesh. This one was particularly challenging to assemble because some of the wisps coming off the spirits were not really, it was not clear where they were supposed to go. Excuse me, allergy season is coming back again one last go. Okay. There are 2 of these. I will be doing bits and pieces of each on camera, so apply that to the other one, move on in a bit. Alright, next, oiled leather 09110. If I can get my lid off. There we go, I just need a tiny little dot, which is good because this one's just about out. This is just going on his boots. Doesn't really have a belt. In terms of water, I'm using just enough to keep the brush moist but not overly wet and to thin the paint. And the other one doesn't really have any belts or boots either, so let it dry and move on a bit. Well, things are still drying, but it's dry enough to move on. Templar Blue 09056. So, one of the reasons I like to do denim on so many Malifaux models that are from the working classes are that I've heard that denim fabric was developed during the California gold rush, or that time period, to provide a durable, lightweight cloth for all the laborers in and around the Wild West of North America. And there we go. Pants are colored, and I want that to dry a little more before I move on to the spirit coming out of the body. Alright, everything's dry now. So, uniform gray. This is an Army Painter Warpaints brand. Reaper Master Series, which I've used for years, has been very difficult to find locally. But the Army Painter brand is more widely available, and I've heard Reapers doing a reformatting. So I'm gradually switching from the Reaper to the Army Painter. They're both good though, so most hobby branded paints are going to be your best bet. So Army Painter, Reaper, Citadel, what is it, Formula P3. These are all good paints. So as they're all water-based acrylics, they should be at least reasonably compatible with each other. Alright. Apply to the other one, and I can start on the spirits coming out. Alright, now these spirits are going to be done as a lighting effect, so to start that, matte white is another Army Painter thing. So your choice of primer matters. Using black, which I do on Malifaux, will give a darker tone to your darker tint to your colors. Using white will make them brighter, and more cartoonish gray will neutralize them. But using black will make bright colors and lighting effects more difficult to do, necessitating an extra layer. And because this curves around so much, I'm going to be extra vigilant in making sure I get at least a reasonably solid coat of white on here. Now, gray as a primer color will result in more muted neutral colors. So, all things to bear in mind. You'll want to use generally a spray primer. So obviously do that outside, and then you'll finish with a varnish of your choice. Okay, that's not too bad, so apply that to the other one, and then once this is all dried up, I can start the shading and lighting effects. Now things are still drying, but it's dry enough to work with. Breonne Blue 09055. This next layer will be done as a shade. So I'll be filling the paint with 1 part water to 1 part paint. For darker colors like straight black or dark gray or dark violet, you might need to go 2 to 3 parts water per 1 part paint. And then just going over the base coat. So the base coat's the color you're going for. The shade is a darker version of it. You want that to pool in the recessed areas. And then your highlight will be a lighter version that will be applied with a dry brushing technique and catch on the raised areas. Okay, apply that to the other model. More right there. And then, once that's dried enough, I can move on. Alright, the denim color is dry, so Ruddy Leather 09109. So you want to avoid shading adjacent areas of different colors simultaneously, because that will make the paint run into each other and blend. That can work for you in some cases, but if you want those areas to be separate, you need to keep that in mind. So in this case, I could not have done the jeans and the shoes simultaneously, for example, but Ghoul skin 09148, I can do the skin and the shoes simultaneously because they are not touching. So an example of where blending might work is if you're using multiple layers on, say, the skin tone, for example, to give a diseased or unnatural appearance. You could have multiple layers of shading, in that case, blending into each other, in which case you'd want to go all of it at once. So just things to bear in mind. I could do that on this, but I've opted for something a little more straightforward. I'm doing kind of just a generic undead skin tone. And there is, by the way, nothing wrong with that. Now, after this dries, I'll be putting a little more matte white in the eyes, and then doing the lighting effect on the spirits coming off of these zombies. That's a nice solid coat, so apply to the other one, let it dry, and move on. Well, I somehow managed to forget one color I need to shade, but I can start with the eyes, so matte white will prep the lighting effects. So doing this as a base coat with just enough water to wet the brush. Filling in the eyes and out to the mouth too. Have these guys brimming with power. And then Stormy Gray 09088. Just fill in the base here. Looks like it's a bit wet on some of this one, but that should be okay. This will cover it up well enough. And this is again just a custom basing insert I do, just a little bit of sculpting putty with a pattern carved into it while wet. And get the other base done. Let that dry a bit and I can do the lighting. Alright, now for the lighting effects. Amethyst Purple 09024. I was originally going to do this in pale green, but after looking at the concept art and seeing kind of a violet tinge to the spirit portions, I decided I actually like that better. Some of that base is still wet, but this is enough to work with. So for a lighting effect, thinning it out, 2 to 3 parts water to 1 part paint, dabbing it over the white. The efficacy of this is in letting some of the white show through, but goes as a shade does for the most part. Keeping the brush nice and wet during this, and if it bleeds into some of the other colors, that helps to give the impression that it's glowing. So I'm trying to get a nice solid coverage here. course, I'm using my offhand to brace my dominant hand. Now this little wisp is only attached by a few points, and much of it is not attached at all, so it's very brittle. But you can see, even with a light touch, how much this is moving, so bear that in mind, as it could break during painting. Alright, apply that to the other one, and when everything's all dried up, I can start highlighting and wrap this up. Alright, time to highlight. Using a dry brushing technique, you're going to need a ragged feather brush like this. Bloodless Skin 09150. There's only 2 of these. I'll just do both on camera, as this will go relatively swiftly because of the small number of models and the simple color scheme. Rubbing out most of the paint until it looks like there's nothing left. Then lightly dusting the area to be affected, going against any raised areas or sharp edges. That helps catch the paint better. And I am focusing on the most readily visible surfaces only, not every single bit of it. So some areas will remain in shadow, and that is too much paint. Let's see if I can thin that out a bit. I can a little. Burnt Orange 09111. I'm switching brushes fairly frequently. You want your brush to be completely dry for this step, so that means either swapping brushes as needed or just waiting. Ashen Blue 09057. Still having some focus issues, but it looks like it's getting a little better. I'm still going to have to just keep practicing and trying until I get it right. I could have done this upper portion of the cloth as a different color. I just decided to go for one for the purpose of saving time and just figuring out he's probably wearing overalls or something like that. And this is really making the wrinkles in his pants pop out. So I'm going against them. And where did I put it? Misty Gray 09090. Again, focusing on the most readily visible areas. Okay, and I somehow dropped thousands of frames somewhere in there. Oh boy. Well, that sucks. But unfortunately, there's not a whole lot I can do about it after the fact because I only get one shot. Not without spending months stripping paint, which I'm not going to do on something I'm otherwise satisfied with. That's all the highlighting. So next, switching to a flathead brush, and let's see, pure black 09037. Okay, my pure black is completely empty, so matte black, which is an army painter equivalent to it. Need to shake this up extra because it's a new pot. And like a base coat, using just enough water to keep the paint thin and the brush moist but not overly wet. Just lining the edge. And a big part of the reason why I have difficulty in catching these frame drops in a more timely manner is the recording rig I have set up. The computer and its monitors are behind me. Essentially, I'm swiveling between the painting table and the computer, and there's no other way to configure it, not with the space I have. So until I can upgrade from my condo to an actual house and maybe spread out a little more, this is just how it's going to have to be. Apply that to the other one, and once it's completely dry, there's one last step. Alright, last step, matte white. Just a tiny amount. This will be done as a base coat. And I am simply putting a Roman numeral on the back of each base so that I can quickly tell them apart. So, 1. I'm doing this based off of kind of where they're looking. And 2. So now all I have to do is write that number on a reference card, preferably over the protective sleeve I put them in, and then can quickly and easily determine which model has taken how much damage without any cause for complaint from anybody. And that is it. The corpse candles, Rava's totems. Continuing on with the man who saved her life. But until then, I am Ian Stokey with Mastermind Games, signing out.